What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and we have a major Steam Deck SteamOS update here, going to 3.6.19 up from our 3.5.19 that we were on previously. Definitely something a lot of us have been waiting to come over to the stable channel, and there's a ton of fixes and improvements in this SteamOS update. So we're going to go through some of that here on the update blog here, and we'll also take a quick look at a couple of games and just see if off the bat there happens to be any performance difference on those. I wouldn't say I would expect much. Valve's done a fantastic job of squeezing everything they can out of this device with updates the past couple of years, and I don't feel like they can get a ton more out of this thing over what they have, but they do keep surprising me, and I'm sure individual games here and there will be improved, but we'll see what those games do when we get into it here. I got 2 or 3 we'll take a look at in the video, but let's go ahead and get into it. Take a look at some of the stuff coming with the SteamOS 3.6.19 update. All right, guys, this is a pretty long list, so I don't want to just sit here and read through everything. I'll put a link in the description to this. Plus, it's just over on the SteamDeck.com news site for the Steam Deck, and this is for the October 23rd, 2024 SteamOS 3.6.19 stable release. So as far as general stuff, we'll take a look at a couple of these here, and then there's a ton of fixes down through here. But they've updated to the more recent Arch Linux base and updated Linux kernel to version 6.5. These updates improve hardware compatibility, system performance, security, and overall system stability. We have improved speed of subsequent OS updates, improved reliability of certain micro SD cards in certain usage scenarios, worked around misdetection of some ScanDisk micro SD cards, improved responsiveness of session restart in case of session crashes caused by certain GPU errors, and some other fixes and stuff along with this. We've improved recovery from situations where the Steam installation could get corrupted. And then there are just a ton of fixes down through here, including the 3.5 memory leak for the OLED, some of the update errors that we had there, and so on here. So again, I don't want to read through all these fixes, but there's a lot of great stuff being cleaned up here in SteamOS 3.6 coming over to stable. So if you want to read through these a little bit closer, go check that out and read through those. But I want to jump down here to graphics and performance. So updated graphics driver to Mesa 24.1 with many performance and other improvements. So like I said, we do have 3 games, 2 or 3 in this video to take a look at here in a minute and just see if there happens to be any changes. There's games that were already on my deck, and I don't think we'll see major improvements for a majority of games, but maybe for certain scenarios and certain games there will be some improvements specific to the graphics driver here. But over time, this will be interesting to see how that works out. Improved responsiveness of the Steam UI, which I can attest to from just kind of using the device here since updating. There are certain times it still felt a bit clunky when hitting the buttons, and that does overall feel a little bit smoother. Now, I won't say it feels like a big jump to me, but it does feel like some of those clunky areas have been smoothed out, and they've worked on that in previous updates before, because SteamOS did used to have quite a few areas where you're navigating around and it would really kind of hang up on you. Improve stability, or improve performance and stability in memory pressure situations, and slightly improved cold boot time. Yeah, the cold boot time, especially for the OLED, when you first would turn that thing on, it takes quite a while sometimes to boot up, to be honest with you. So I haven't tested that out to see if I notice the difference, but I'll take a quicker boot time anytime, especially for my deck OLED. They've got some stuff in the SteamOS 3.6.19 update for external displays and for TV, which is nice to see, and some external display stuff here. They fixed several issues where the external display could remain blank after resuming or waking up the deck or whatever the case, and then it wouldn't want to kick on. You may have to go unplug it, plug it in, or reboot it. So hopefully that's going to be fixed for most people with that. Fix an issue where an external display could remain blank if its mode required chroma subsampling. Fix an issue where the system could crash on wake up if the external display port monitor was connected. There was a lot of issues with especially waking the deck or starting, sometimes for me, just starting up the deck from fresh and being already docked. For Bluetooth, they've improved pairing for Apple AirPods, enabled support for Bluetooth HFP and BAP profiles, and added a mechanism to configure which Bluetooth device category is allowed to wake the system from suspended. And this one definitely has been annoying me, as even my Xbox controllers I'm turning on for other devices will like kick on my Steam Deck out of nowhere. So that's a cool one there for me to see on the Bluetooth. Improved connection speed of some Bluetooth devices, and fix an issue where Bluetooth peripherals would disconnect on session switch. For input, they've added some support for ROG Ally stuff like the ROG Ally keys, the ROG Reverie Pro controller, support for Mechanic G5 Pro controller, and all that kind of stuff here. They fixed some stuff with the DualShock 4, so a little bit of input stuff. And of course, we're getting ready for SteamOS coming over to Ally, like they have been specifically mentioning, and we know it'll be probably available for other Windows devices, but Valve's really been specifically pointing out SteamOS getting ready for the ROG Ally and Ally X. We've got some BIOS and firmware stuff, adjusted power LED slow charging threshold, fixed not being able to set the SD card as default boot device. That's a pretty cool one. Fixed spurious power LED blinking in S5. Steam Deck OLED only, added support for the Windows Bluetooth driver. LCD models already had that. Yeah, so we've got the, there were some more issues with the Bluetooth driver, and apparently we should be fixed up for that now on that. And then for Steam Deck LCD only, they've improved battery life up to 10% on light load situations. This one I find pretty interesting. I only have my LCD set up with Windows still right now for testing, but I might have to go back to SteamOS and experiment with this a little bit. 10% is not a ton, but that's a good little chunk when you're talking about trying to squeeze everything you can out of the battery and you're playing some easier to run games or whatever the case may be there. So that's pretty cool. And they've added overclocking controls as well in there for the LCD model. Now, one of the final things I want to talk about real quick in here is the Steam Deck docking station. So they've added support for some HDMI CEC features, and I think this is really cool, especially for those using the dock on the TV, and sometimes I'm one of those with it set up over there. So being able to TV remote input, TV wake up, and TV input switching is really cool. And they've updated dock firmware with compatibility fixes for high refresh rate displays and fixed several issues where displays would remain blank, which is what we were talking about with the external display stuff earlier here in the blog as well. So that's actually pretty cool. I really like seeing those features implemented for the dock for the TV and the CEC feature, something I use a lot in my home theater setup. We've got some other stuff down here about development and modding, and of course we had a bunch of fixes we didn't go over in general, and some stuff over in a couple other areas. So make sure that if you want to get more deeper into this, take a look, click the link in the description if you want to check it out, or go to steamdeck.com/news and check out the blog for this latest update for October 23rd here for SteamOS 3.6.19. Now, really quickly, let's take a look at the 3 games I happen to have on the deck that I went ahead and recorded 3.5.19, and then I recorded them again at 3.6.19, and we'll just see if those 3 games happen to have any difference. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so we'll start off with Cyberpunk, and we'll take a look at these games really quickly. Not going to get too deeply into the testing here, but it's always interesting to see differences with the drivers. And I apologize for the overlay on this one. I didn't have them matched up. But the 3.519 on the left and 3.619 on the right for all the games. And you'll see here in Cyberpunk, while it's not a big difference, we actually do get a slight improvement to performance and stability here on Cyberpunk with the new driver. 4656 versus 4713. Again, negligible and small, but in certain areas you could see a little bit of difference, right? Maybe 1-2 FPS, kind of depending on what's going on, which is always better than a loss. And Cyberpunk is pretty picky with drivers, so I kind of like to always run this one. I'm glad it was already on the deck when I was doing these updates so that I could check it out. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're looking at for Cyberpunk with this. Now, Final Fantasy 16 is another one I had on here, and its performance is almost identical. I would say that from time to time it might have gotten a little bit better. When we get into this next scene here, the action sequence, it's actually a little bit more stable than 3.5, so 3.6 does a little better job there, and frame rate's a little better here where it gets a little bit more intensive. It's not perfect, it'll sometimes drop as well, but it does run pretty similar, but maybe slightly better here on Final Fantasy 16. So kind of like Cyberpunk, maybe like negligible, but a little better, and we'll take it. Now, the real interesting one though for me, and it makes me want to test more games, but Metaphor, we actually had quite a loss here of 4 to 5 FPS, 3 FPS, depending on where I was at. And I really had to go back and check all these settings again, just make sure it was all correct, and it is. Everything was proper here and completely matched up. But yeah, that happens with drivers sometimes, where some games don't change, some get a lot better, and some will take a hit, and then they'll get better later on with more updates. But yeah, we definitely seem to be losing anywhere from 3 to 5 FPS in Metaphor right now, at least for me here on the Steam Deck OLED, testing out Metaphor. So we saw Cyberpunk and Final Fantasy 16 with a little bit of improvement, which was nice to see, a little bit more stable in Final Fantasy 16 on the frame times in that action sequence. But Here on Metaphor, it's a pretty consistent bit of a loss. It's still stable and smooth enough, but a loss in performance nonetheless. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much what we're looking at here for the performance right now. I didn't get too deep into the testing, but obviously drivers always affect individual game performance. So depending on what you test and where you test, it's going to depend on what kind of results you'll get. But this is a great update for the Steam Deck, bringing 3.6.19 over to the stable channel and all the other improvements that it brings with it. And great on Valve to continue working on the Steam Deck, and I can't wait till the next generation. All right, guys, thanks a lot for coming and check out the video. As always, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.